opinions expressed during this program are solely the opinions of the host, guests, and callers. They do not necessarily represent the views of the advertisers, management, staff, or ownership of WCTC. This is New Jersey Today. It's two-way talk hosted by Bert Baron, where the local issues that matter to you are front and center on the New Talk Radio 1450 WCTC and online at WCTCAM.com.
All right, 106 on a Thursday. How you doing? Welcome to New Jersey Today on the New Talk Radio 1450 WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey. It is Bert Baron welcoming you back to the show, where Jersey gathers weekdays between 1 and 3 to talk to the newsmakers, talk about the newsmakers, and in today's case, you're going to meet a newsmaker who is live in studio with us for the first hour of the show. Real thrilled to have him here as well. Our phone number, 732-545-WCTC. We're toll-free outside the 732 area code at 1-888-545-WCTC. Listen to us live online at WCTCAM.com. You can also listen to us at iHeartRadio.com. Follow us on Facebook, and we're on Twitter as well. You can follow us on Twitter as well, 1450 WCTC for both of those, and a great way to just kind of stay in touch with what's going on here on New Jersey Today and on WCTC. Coming up in the second hour of the show will be our monthly Laughternoons segment. I'll be joined live in studio by comedian John Peasy, and also Laura Gibbons from Showstoppers Plus Entertainment. We'll take a look at some things that are going on around New Jersey nowadays and try to find the humor. And if you look close enough, you can find humor in just about anything. But they'll be our guests coming up for the second hour of the show today. We've also got our contest coming up. Your next chance to score the pair of tickets to see the Rascals at the PNC Bank Arts Center in Holmdel Friday night, July 5th. This is that big Broadway show that was the absolutely impossible ticket to get. The show, of course, produced by Stevie Van Zandt. And they had such a successful Broadway run that they said, hey, you know what, we could go national with this thing and then really pack him in some big venues. And that's exactly what they're going to do. PNC Bank Arts Center on July 5th. That is the only, as of right now, the only New Jersey show on the entire tour. And New Jersey Today is very pleased to celebrate that show coming up on the 5th. We're going to play Rascals, One Note, Name That Tune, a little bit later on in the show today with your chance to win the pair of tickets to see the Rascals on July 5th. But a very special in-studio guest who is going to be with us here for the first hour. Your calls obviously are encouraged for our special guest. He is a CPA and tax attorney who provides expert IRS representation to his clients. He has offices in Dayton, of course, located right here in New Jersey. He is licensed to practice both in professions in New York and New Jersey. Former president of the American Association of Attorney Certified Public Accountants, and also a founder of the IRS Tax Liaison Committee. He continues working at a national level on tax policy matters through writing, teaching, and long-term relationships with IRS leaders, and naming him as one of America's top 100 most influential people in accounting for 7 straight years. The publication Accounting Today cited his work as a national leader in IRS matters. He received his undergraduate degree from MIT, also possesses an MBA from Boston University, and a JD from the Washington University School of Law. Please welcome to New Jersey Today our very special guest today, E. Martin Davidoff, but we're going to call him Marty for the show here today. Marty, welcome to New Jersey Today. It's great to see you.
Great to be here, Bert.
Boy, those are the words. You know what? Anytime you have issues with the IRS or problems when it comes with taxes or with liens, those 4 words you got to remember. Somebody get me Marty, right? Because that's what you do.
Well, what we do is we provide our clients peace of mind. When they come to us, we take care of it. Yeah, and
Marty is going to be here, of course, to take your calls for the first hour, whether it's IRS issues, taxes, tax liens, whatever. We're here, 732-545-WCTC or 1-888-545-WCTC. Talk about yourself, Marty, and some of your accomplishments and how long you've been doing what you do so well now.
Well, my biggest accomplishment is 2 daughters and 2 granddaughters.
There you go. Congratulations.
And,
nice.
That's really what I strive for with them,
mm-hmm.
and as far as everything else, it's just we work with taxes and day in and day out, and you've already read my accomplishments, so that's basically what we do is we help people.
Yeah.
We help our clients, get through what they need to get through and do what we need to do. But I have a great family, and my granddaughter's flying in from Montana, and we're going to have a birthday party. So that's what's fun.
Very nice. Well, there you go. And I think what you provide, Marty, and this is such an important thing for people that maybe don't know about you, or maybe some people that have you've been able to help in the past. boy, you just can't put a price tag on peace of mind. You know, being able, when your head hits that pillow that night, you know, sometimes peace of mind, you just can't put a price tag on. And there are people that are on real issues, have had real problems, and you've been there to help them.
We're there to help them, and our price tag is our hourly fee. So, except for our Lien Busters business, which we're going to be talking about in a few.
I want to learn a lot more about the lienbusters.com website over this hour as well. And by the way, if you want some more information about Marty and his firm, if you visit the website taxattorneycpa.com, you can get all the information about his services and everything that you need to know about him. Just a tremendous guy, and he is there to help you. He really is, and he is really an asset for anyone who is having problems dealing with the IRS or tax issues or whatnot. And as long as you've been doing tax work in New Jersey, Marty, obviously huge changes over the decades that you've been doing this, right?
There are changes up and down, changes in personality, but the basics are the basics. The basics are, if people are out of compliance, we help bring them into compliance. We deal with the debts, and we try to minimize the pain, try to get people to pay their taxes over a period that they can afford to do, or if they can't afford it, we help them with offers and compromise. The state of New Jersey has gone up and down depending on who's there. Right now, you seem to have a good administration in there that seems to have some flexibility in the Division of Taxation. And the IRS, I mean, the biggest problem with the IRS right now today is Congress, because Congress has decided that our tax-paying arm of America that collects the money should be sequestered and should have furlough days. So about 5 days over this summer, the IRS will be totally closed and unable to collect taxes. And
wow.
That seems to be not a smart way to close the budget deficit.
Has this happened before? Is this unprecedented?
Whenever there's a sequester, they include the IRS. They don't exclude them. I remember a few years ago, New Jersey had a similar thing, but they excluded the Division of Taxation.
I recall that, yeah.
They're collecting the money for us, but Congress is not as smart as our state assembly.
I guess not, right? But you mentioned in dealing with two separate entities when it comes to taxes at the state level and at the federal level. It's two completely different entities, and you work with both of them, right?
We work with both of them. There's actually a third entity. There's the State Department of Labor, which collects the unemployment taxes on businesses and the disability taxes. And so really the two state agencies are totally separate in terms of dealing with controversy matters that I kind of handle. Okay.
Why do people in New Jersey get into tax trouble? I mean, it seems like a pretty cut and dry thing where you work all year, you pay your taxes. You pay the accountant, some accountants in Jersey who are just terrific. You pay the accountant, they do your taxes. Sometimes you owe, sometimes you get some money back, and the cycle starts over again. Why do people get into tax trouble sometimes in New Jersey?
Many of them get in tax trouble for a variety of reasons. First of all, there are a lot of non-filers. They were employer for a few years, or they didn't. Our high schools don't teach anything about your tax obligation.
I never learned anything about it.
The number one expenditure you have in your life, if you're successful, is taxes.
Yeah.
And even if you're not successful, it's probably the number two after your housing. And so our education system, it starts there. There is no education about sales taxes. You have all these students who are running little businesses, and they forget, you have to collect sales tax for this stuff. So their sales taxes, that's a state issue. But what happens is sometimes there's a lack of knowledge. Sometimes it's intentional deceit. Sometimes they get into, I was an employee, now I'm being paid as a non-employee. And then at the end of the day, they say, oh, my God, I owe all this money. I wasn't paying estimated taxes. Mm-hmm. So we see it happen. A lot of it is a personality, personalities that just don't want to attend to this, and then they get caught in a cycle. Most of who we see are generally people who, have good intentions, but they got behind and couldn't pay their taxes. A lot of small businesses just couldn't, pay those quarterly estimates. What we tell some of our clients to do who can't come up with that, we say, you know what, why don't you take a small percentage out of every month's income and take that and put it aside for taxes or pay your taxes. You can go on the IRS website for paying taxes. They have a wonderful name. This is the Lafternoon. I mean, this is funny. You would think that the IRS would have a name of a website, paytheirs.com or IRS, but their website is eftps.gov. Well, who created that? I mean, it's the Electronic Federal Tax Payment System. And 10 years ago, when they rolled this out, I said, you got to get another name. Go by taxpay.com or taxpay.gov. Get an easy name, even to this day. So, and here's the ridiculousness of that system. You go to banks don't have as much staff as the IRS. The IRS has over 100,000 employees. They could program anything, and they have a lot of programming.
Okay.
The IRS and the United States government has not seen fit to be able to put into EFTPS.gov that say, I'd like to pay $200 a week, 52 weeks a year, and put it in once. What you have to do is go in every single payment and put it in 52 different times.
That's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Every single bank, every small bank says, okay, I want to pay this amount every week, every month, every biweekly. They have all different choices. But the Internal Revenue Service, and actually the EFTPS is controlled by a larger entity, they haven't figured this out yet. And you talk about electronic filing, and you talk about these kinds of things. You talk about electronic payment. So here you have a government that wants you to pay electronically.
They encourage it,
They encourage it. Yeah. And if I mail a check on April 15th, if I mailed that check on April 15th, no matter when they cashed it, it was timely. But if I went on EFTPS.gov at 11:59 p.m. on April 15th and hit the button to say pay, I'm 2 days late. Because I had to pay 8 p.m. the day before. I had to tell them to pay. Now, how nuts is that? And this has been brought to the attention of the Internal Revenue Service by Senator Chuck Schumer, for one, who I worked with on this.
All right.
And they haven't done anything about it.
Amazing. You would think that they would just try to make it as easy as possible, and it just seems so complicated with different tax rules and different exclusions. What can I write off? What can I write off? Are we ever going to see a simpler tax code in the future, Marty, or is it just going to get more and more complicated?
It ebbs and flows.
Okay.
Sometimes it gets a little simpler. Sometimes it gets a little more complicated. But the interesting thing, people talk about a flat tax. Oh, that'll simplify it.
I've heard that as an answer. It's not.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
It's not so hard to figure out the tax rates. What's hard to is figure out I've got phase-outs and phase-ins and 15 different pension deductions and 12 different deductions for adoption credits and college and this and that. And they have so many choices. For example, the Congress just implemented a tax increase. And it was a secret tax increase. They said, we're going to phase out the exemptions, and we're going to phase out itemized deductions. Well, these phase-outs are really a tax increase on the rich, not the very rich. It's an increase, and then it gets phased out, and then it's no longer there. So the people who are merely rich, not very rich, pay a higher percentage. Why not have been honest with the American public and say, listen, we're going to add another 0.5% here. Instead, they had to play with smoke and mirrors, and because they didn't want to tell America that we're going back to – and they had these – and they eliminated these phase-ins and phase-outs, but now they put them back in there because, you know what, they needed revenue, and it was a lot of money. And they didn't have the integrity. Our Congress doesn't have the integrity to say, we need more money, we're just going to raise the rates.
You would think of just a little bit of integrity. You'd mentioned with New York Senator Schumer. How about New Jersey Senators Lautenberg and Menendez? Any dealings with them on any kind of level?
I've never gotten any feedback from them when I've approached them. I was lucky enough, and it's the same side of the aisle. Chuck Schumer had a relationship through a client, and we ended up our AAA CPA, the American Association of Attorneys, CPAs that you mentioned, I had been formerly president. We had worked with Chuck Schumer's office to at least get this to the attention of the IRS, and the IRS basically said, we'll look into it, and that was the end of it. Oh, boy.
Man, oh, man. Well, I'm just glad that people have an option like you, Marty, deal with the IRS, because everything I hear about them, it just seems like so difficult to deal with and so difficult to work with that sometimes you need someone with experience and somebody you could trust like you and the services that you offer.
Well, actually, it's not as difficult to work with, but you need to know the roadmap. And sometimes a lot of clients can get a lot of help coming into my office, having a half-hour consultation. I tell them, well, if you ask for an installment agreement and they say no, you have the right to appeal. And sometimes the IRS doesn't. Sometimes you haven't made it clear that you've asked for an installment agreement. Sometimes the conversation will go like this. Somebody owes money. You owe $75,000 to the IRS.
Okay.
It's come up over a period of years. And the IRS says, send me the financial data. So one of the things you have to do is send them the financial data. They have a Form 433-F or a Form 433-A, and you send them in the financial data. They then take that data, make a decision and say, okay, you, Mr. Davidoff, can pay $1,800 a month. And I say, no, I can only pay $500 a month. Now, when I say I can only pay $500 a month, the IRS should say, oh, Mr. Davidoff's asking for an installment agreement for $500 a month. We're going to say no and give him his appeal rights. But that's not what often happens. What often happens is, they keep saying it's like, tastes great, less filling. One side's saying tastes great, the other saying less filling.
Yes.
The IRS is saying $1,800, you're saying $500. They're saying $1,800, you're saying $500, and you don't get anywhere. And the IRS says, okay, goodbye, and they say, okay, I'm now going to levy his accounts and garnish his wages.
Wow. Yeah.
But all the taxpayer had to say is, I would like to make the $500 a month a proposal for an installment agreement. At that point, the IRS is then, and I put it in writing for my clients.
Sure.
At that point, the IRS must either approve it or disapprove it. If they disapprove it, they have to give you a letter saying, we disapprove it, and here are your appeal rights. And that's 101 with when you owe money to the IRS, and we have lots more to talk about.
Yeah, see, that's things like that are the everyday person doesn't know about. That's why they need somebody like you who's got that knowledge and that experience and has been doing it as long and as successfully as you've been doing it.
Yeah,
so.
and there are a lot of CPAs and tax attorneys who can also give some of the basic advice. Make sure you're dealing with somebody, CPA or tax attorney who regularly represents clients before the IRS, not just somebody who prepares taxes. CPAs can be very, very good at preparing taxes, but not so good at representing before the IRS. And there are others who could do both. So make sure when you're looking for somebody to help you, it may not be the CPA who prepares your taxes. You can say, do you have significant experience? Because it's a specialty. I don't know how to work your radio controls. All right, and I may see that your fingers
much simpler
than
what you do. I'll tell you that.
But the fact of the matter is, you put me behind there. I'm gonna be a little bit slow in doing that. But I do what I do.
Sure.
A painter does what he does. You have me paint a room, I'm not going to do a very good job on it. It's going to be a little sloppy. I'm going to get some on the carpet. I'm going to get some on the ceiling. I'll be full of it all over. My girlfriend is going to say, Marty, you got to take about 17 showers. See, am I fitting into Laughternoon? Are we doing
Absolutely,
what we need to do
yes.
today? Okay.
E. Martin Davidoff, Marty is our guest here. A terrific guy, also a CPA, tax attorney. We're taking your questions about IRS issues and tax issues. He's going to be with us here for the full hour. 732-545-WCTC or 1-888-545-WCTC. We'll come back. We'll talk about the IRS Fresh Start program and also different types of liens and how Marty and his office can help you. Marty, of course, a CPA and a tax attorney practicing right here in New Jersey, can be able to help you with those issues. So we'll take your call, 732-545-WCTC. We'll come back and spend some more time with E. Martin Davidoff here on a very special New Jersey Today. Right now, it's 1:22, and here's your Central Jersey weather. 1:26, we're back on New Jersey Today on the new Talk Radio 1450 WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey. 732-545-WCTC is our phone number. Toll free if you're outside the 732 area code 1-888-545-WCTC. Laughternoons with John and Laura coming up in hour number 2. Contest coming up today as well for your chance to win the tickets to see the Rascals at the PNC Bank Arts Center on July 5th. We're going to play the Rascals One Note Name That Tune to win the tickets for the concert. We'll do that coming up a little bit later on in the show today. But my very special guest who is going to be with us here for the first hour of the show until 2 o'clock, of course, ready to take your calls as well. E. Martin Davidoff, attorney and CPA located right in Dayton, New Jersey. Website for him, you can go to lienbusters.com. Also, you can check him out online at taxattorneycpa.com, but he's going to be here to take your calls for the hour. Marty, we've been hearing, I know our station audience has been hearing about a special service that you offer called lienbusters.com. So let's talk about different types of liens. I know there's more than just one type of lien that exists, right?
Well, we're dealing in the context of federal tax liens with respect to the Internal Revenue Service. When you file a tax return,
okay,
and you owe money, to the IRS, the first thing that happens is it's a secret tax lien. Only you and the IRS know about it. All right, they have a lien on you, but it doesn't affect anything because it's a secret. But the law calls for a tax lien. Then at some point in time, the IRS is going to get upset, and they're going to say, wait a second, you're not paying us up the money. We're not in an installment agreement. We would like to notify the public, and they do something called a notice of federal tax lien. And they put it on your record. It ends up on and it's not a lien on a house, but it's a lien on you. It's filed in the county in which you live.
Okay.
And it may also be filed in the county in which you own real estate in if it's a different county. Depends on how the Internal Revenue Service looks at this. When you pay off that debt, the IRS releases the lien. And sometimes they'll release it because you've satisfied the debt, you paid it. Sometimes they'll discharge the lien, they call it discharge, against a particular property. So let's say you have a property and it's underwater and you want to sell it, and there's the IRS lien sitting there on you. That can only be transferred if the IRS gives you a discharge. And they will. Generally, they will do that. So there's a discharge lien against a specific property, even if you still owe the property. You could borrow money from a bank and pay it to the IRS, but the bank's going to say, wait a second, we don't want to stand behind the IRS.
Right.
So what will happen is the IRS will subordinate the lien. If the IRS is getting the bulk of the funds from that loan, they'll say, okay, we'll subordinate our lien to the bank who's giving us money. And the final thing is, and this is what's very little known and part of the new Fresh Start program is even if you have a release lien, you got a lien, you paid it off, you are still going to have credit problems because the history of the lien impacts your credit score. So what we've done, and as part of the IRS Fresh Start program, what we've done is we help people withdraw that lien. And once it is withdrawn, it is as if it never existed. And our website, lienbusters.com, that you mentioned a couple of times, has under its links articles by the Pennsylvania Society of CPA, even by the people who do the credit scores. They don't like it. They say, well, listen, this is misleading. But we have some articles from objective people about this. And what we do for a fixed fee, you come in and say, okay, I've got a lien. And we say for a fixed fee, we're going to release that lien. And we're going to withdraw the lien. And we guarantee our results. And so it's a very simple service. You come in, we handle it. It's a fixed fee. You pay us. If we get the job done, we're done. If you don't, you get your money back.
So even if you've satisfied this lien that you have with the IRS, you've satisfied it, you've done your due diligence, you've paid back every single penny.
Yes.
The fact that is still exists in some degree in your tax history or your credit record, that impacts your ability to borrow money and start a business and buy and sell property. Even though it's already paid off, you're square with the house, as they say, but you still have this hanging over you.
You still have this hanging over you. And if you go to the links, we have, the Pennsylvania Institute of CPAs has talked about this. We have write-ups from credit.com that talk about this, even USA Today and smartcredit.com, and even the FICO. FICO is the one who says, we don't like this because if you withdraw the lien, people won't know that you had a problem with the IRS. And from our point of view, you said, yeah, that's the point.
Well, yeah, isn't that the point? I mean,
that's the point.
I would think that basically anytime you satisfy a debt, a lien that you owe some, party A owes party B some money, once that's paid off, it should be like water under the bridge, really, shouldn't it?
Well, it should be, but in most cases, that judgment stays on your record that you had the judgment, and IRS liens are particularly nasty because they're given more credence. So if you get them withdrawn, technically withdrawal is the IRS saying, oh, we made a mistake. We should have never put the lien on you.
Oh,
now, this Fresh Start program is saying we're going to pretend we, the IRS, with you, we're going to misrepresent to the entire creditors of the nation, and we're going to say we made a mistake. And all you have to do, for the most part, is ask. And we know how to ask, and we help people. We help people do that.
It's unbelievable. And like you said, you use the word nasty. That's exactly what I was thinking of. It's a nasty thing that kind of hangs over your head. And boy, I would think that every time you try to do something, whether it's with your business, with property, any sort of transaction, boy, that rears its ugly head, and you're going to wish you took care of that when you had the chance. And that's exactly how you help people out, right?
Absolutely.
Man, oh man.
And I just want to give a little pitch for something.
Sure.
All right, if people call my office, they're going to talk to Rachel about Lien Busters. If they talk about anything else, they're going to talk to Joanne, my executive assistant.
Okay.
My executive assistant is the one who packs me up and gets me places like here today.
Like here.
And Joanne, I just want to give a shout out to you. You're the best. Thanks so much.
Yes, thanks for arranging today's sit down because we're learning a lot with E. Martin Davidoff, who was here with us. 732-545-WCTC or toll free at 1-888-545-WCTC. Maybe you as a business owner have been in a similar situation like this where you had this IRS lien that just kind of dogging you. Maybe you're still dealing with it. Maybe it's preventing you from getting a business loan. Even lines of credit are affected by this too, right, Marty?
Absolutely. It increases your credit score, and until it's withdrawn, it's going to withdrawn or enough time, 7 or 8 years has gone by, it's going to stay there.
I mean, how many other times you take out a car loan, you pay it off in its entirety, that doesn't follow you around as, hey, you borrowed money to buy a car once. What's the difference?
That's the good kind of borrowing.
Right.
Borrowing from the IRS is not generally, borrowing from the IRS is not looked upon kindly.
Okay, all right. Well, it's 1:33 on New Jersey Today on the New Talk Radio WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey. 732-545-WCTC or 1-888-545-WCTC. And those articles that Marty was referencing, you could find on the website lienbusters.com. And again, you can go there and click on the links. There's an FAQ, frequently asked questions section. You can contact them. Find out a lot more about Marty as well on that website, lienbusters.com. A very, very valuable service if this is something that has been just preventing you from kind of getting out from under the proverbial rock, I guess is what it would be. So, but Marty and his people are there to help you, definitely. So reach out. And it all starts with visiting lienbusters.com. We'll come back. We're going to talk about the 5 rules of engagement in dealing with IRS collection matters. And it's just one of those things that people need to know. It's about arming people with the knowledge and information, and that's why Marty is here with us today. But again, if you have a question or comment for him, phones are open, 732-545-WCTC or 1-888-545-WCTC. We'll come back, and we'll talk more with E. Martin Davidoff here on a very special New Jersey Today. Stay right there. 1:38, we're back on New Jersey Today on the New Talk Radio WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey, talking taxes and IRS issues, and the great website lienbusters.com, which will take you right to the law offices of E. Martin Davidoff, who is with us here today. 732-545-WCTC or 1-888-545-WCTC. We're taking your calls right on through 2 o'clock, so please feel free if you have a question or comment for our guest who will be with us here for the rest of the hour. Before we go, Marty, into the 5 rules of engagement in dealing with IRS collection matters, some very, very important information here. Lauryn Hill, a singer from New Jersey, platinum-selling artist, mother, she's going to jail for not paying taxes. We just got the sentence was just handed down. I look at her situation, and then I'll look at maybe, a Willie Nelson or maybe someone else who, for the same thing, not paying their taxes, never go to prison. They never spend any time in jail. Why do some people go to prison and some people do? Do and don't. Why is that?
It much depends on who their criminal tax lawyer is and when they got to them.
Okay.
If they got to the criminal tax lawyer after they made admissions that they intentionally underreported the taxes, there has to be an intent to go to jail.
Okay.
Very few people go to jail each year. It's under 500 people a year that go to jail for tax fraud and tax evasion.
Out of thousands of people?
Out of millions of people.
Wow, okay.
Out of millions. So there are millions of taxpayers, and there are probably several million don't pay their taxes. But it's not enough to not pay your taxes. There has to be an intent. And then the IRS and the Department of Justice have limited resources. So who are they going to put in jail? They're going to put in jail a celebrity.
High-profile person.
Right. A Leona Helmsley who said paying taxes is only for the little people. These are the people they want to get, and then they want to put it out there. The referees, there were NBA referees who are cashing in. There have been umpires. There have been all kinds of high-profile things. So they look for the high-profile cases to get the biggest bang for the buck. What I see day to day is when I have a taxpayer who has underreported their income, even if it's intentional, we don't ever admit that it was intentional. We don't ever say, oh, yeah, he didn't report it intentionally. We just say, okay, here's the correct amount, IRS. Your computations of looking at the cash flow are correct. Here's the correct amount. We'll agree to the adjustment. When you start giving them the evidence, when they go to a CPA who doesn't have privilege first, or they go to an enrolled agent, these are great people to do tax preparation, provide tax representation in collection matters. But when you're going to an area that has a potential criminal matter, you got to go to a tax attorney. Yeah. And then even ones like me, I may represent you in the audit, but at some point, if it turns criminal, as they say, it's going to a criminal tax attorney. But what we do is we take care that we never make an admission of that there was intent. And it's the intent that's the difference. And they have to build a case, just like any criminal case. Any white-collar criminal case is the same thing. So they're looking to make examples of people.
Gotcha.
I don't know the facts between Will and Nelsie and other celebrities.
Okay.
But the fact of the matter, there has to be intent.
Okay. So even if someone gets to that level, you can refer them to perhaps some other criminal defense attorneys? And
absolutely. There's some very good people in the state and New York and New Jersey who are excellent at doing this.
All right. Excellent. Let's talk about the 5 rules of engagement in dealing with IRS collection matters. First one, current taxes get paid first. Why is that so important?
Well, here's what happens. Somebody owes money for their taxes. They owe for 2010, 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
And the IRS contacts them and say, okay, I'll pay 2010. Well, what about 2013? You've got to be current first. You can't start the cure until you are doing it right going forward. In other words, you need to make sure that there's enough in your budget to pay your current taxes ongoing. Once you do that, for the past, you can look at all the alternatives that we can talk about later. We can talk about paying the tax, getting into an installment agreement, doing an offer and compromise, all the alternatives that we're going to talk about later in the show you can get up. But you got to pay your current taxes first. It's the first rule of engagement with dealing in a case.
So take care of the current year and then work on maybe some sort of package settlement for the previous years, right?
Absolutely. And 100%. You got it, Bert.
Number 2, carefully read and understand all IRS communications. You have to open the mail from them. Yeah, how many times have you Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, people, I got a letter from the IRS. I thought it was bad news, so I didn't open it. I'm sure you've heard that before.
Not only do I hear it, they come in with a box full of them, certified mails, all the bad news, and they say, well, nobody ever told me that I owed any tax. I said, you didn't open your mail. And often those items of mail give you important appeal rights.
Yeah.
They give you there's one that's called the Notice of Intent to Levy and your right to a hearing. It's a letter 1058. You look at it and say, okay, what do I do? Well, you fill out the form that says, I want a hearing. All right? Or you call the person who sent it and say, can I work something out? Can I come in, show you what my financials are, and let's work out something?
Yeah.
Sometimes there are lots of alternatives. They can be currently not collectible. They can be, you can get into an offer and compromise, a partial pay installment agreement. And in fact, if you're under $50,000, you're entitled to a fresh start installment agreement where they don't put on a lien, they don't ask for your financials. You just take the number, divide it. You can pay it over 72 months. So if you owe $50,000, divide the number by 66. It's $700 or $800 a month.
Yeah.
They will accept that without looking at any financials. And that's part of a program that's only started in the last 2 years.
Okay, and as I say, under 50,000, that's still a pretty big number. I mean,
still a pretty big number.
That's a lot of leeway. It's a lot of wiggle room. Yeah.
It's a lot of leeway. So people who want to do this, and if you don't have a lien on you, they won't put a lien on you. And even if you have a lien, when you get under 25 and you ask them to remove it, even though you're still in the installment agreement, they will withdraw the lien while you're still paying it off once you're under $25,000.
Okay. Number 3, do not let appeal deadlines pass without considering action to be taken. It's in other words, the less you do, the longer you go without doing anything, you're just kind of digging the hole a little bit deeper, right?
It's sort of like that. It's kind of corollary to opening your mail. If you open the mail, you're going to know about the appeal deadline. The appeal deadline on collections, what are they going to do if they're going to garnish your wages? The appeal deadline on a denial of an installment agreement. The appeal deadline if you're audited, even though we're talking about collection today.
Yeah.
You need to read the mail and find out how to appeal and then say, do I appeal or don't I appeal? Not just let the deadline go by and be frozen like a deer in headlights.
Gotcha. And this one you can explain to me why it's such an important thing. Number 4, always get the name and ID number of the IRS representative you're dealing with. Why is that critical, and why does it even matter?
And it's critical, and it should be the first thing you get when you talk to before you get into a conversation. Get that information first. Why is it critical? Because it's like the ID number of that person. If that person disrespects you, doesn't deal with you properly, you can always go back and, in effect, get the guy in trouble or get the gal in trouble. You want them to know right up front that you have their information, and if they don't treat you fairly, that you have recourse. And if you don't have their name and ID number, you're calling the 800 numbers, you're going to say, oh, yeah, I talked to a woman, her name was Sylvia, I don't know her last name, and I don't know her ID number, and she told me to go take a hike. And she was rude to me, or she told me that she's going to come and she's going to seize all my bank accounts, and she was mean and rude and didn't tell me what my rights are. And I said, well, what are my rights? And she said, I'm not telling you, go hire an attorney. Well, that's a person who's not doing their job.
Sounds like it.
And that's a person that if you don't have their ID number, you can't do anything about it.
That could be very intimidating, I think, to some people. I mean, especially if you call and you get the old, this conversation may be monitored for whatever purposes. To the person making the call, they could be a little intimidated. And then for you to say, well, get the name and ID number of the person you're talking to, and that's a pretty big step for people.
Well, it may be for people, but to the IRS, because they're dealing with a lot of professionals, they're used to that.
Okay.
Because the first thing they say is, my ID number is 123. You can't hear them.
Oh, okay.
And say, hi, Mrs. Jones, could you please repeat your ID number? And it's really not a big deal. They're not intimidated, but it's just a good start of the friendly. You just make it a habit whenever you call, Mrs. Jones, may I have your ID number? And then you write it down. And Mrs. Jones, am I spelling your name correctly?
They expect that to some degree?
They certainly expect that when they're dealing with professionals like myself. And,
okay.
And it's not a bad idea. And the more people do it, they'll expect it more. But it's not. I never get a bad reaction from that alone. It's the next rule where I say,
I was going to say
keep in mind that every IRS has a manager. And I say, may I have the name and telephone number of your manager? Now, the 800 line is not allowed to give the phone number, but they are supposed to give you the name. And when they don't, and basically the thing on the 800 number is you say, I'd like a manager call back within 48 hours, and you're supposed to get a manager call back.
Okay.
But here's the thing. When I say to them, especially if I'm dealing with a local revenue officer or even on the phone, if I say, may I have the name of your manager? And they say, I'm not permitted to provide that. I said, let me get this clear. You're a public employee. I've asked you for the name of your manager, and you're refusing to give it to me? And then I get a hesitation. It's Mrs. Jones is my manager.
Okay. All right.
Most of the time. And then if I'm dealing other than the 800 numbers, I'll say, well, may I have the phone number of your manager? Again, I've had people tell me not. And then I'll ask sometimes when I'm dealing in the field here with the revenue officer. Revenue officers are people who do collection here in the field in the Edison office or the Freehold office or the Trenton office.
Okay.
I will then, say, well, who's the territory manager above your manager? And sometimes they'll say, well, I'll let my manager give you that information. I said, okay, let me get this straight. So you know who the territory manager, you're a public employee, and you're not giving me the name of the territory manager. Am I hearing that correctly?
Silence.
Yeah, it's Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Granny Smith.
Yeah, drier apples. Exactly. Right. But these are things that people should keep in mind.
Oh, everybody's got a manager. Don't be shy about. Listen, if you're not getting the right answer, sometimes they ask for a manager to tell them what a great job this person did. I was on the phone with the IRS the other day. I had filed an amended return on behalf of a client who had forgotten to take state tax deduction. So we get back a letter that says, well, we can't process your return. They didn't say I had appeal rights that they denied. They said, we can't process, but call this number if you have a question. So we called the number that had a question, got a guy on the phone, and in 13 minutes, he listened to me, confirmed that I had the power of attorney, and said, I'm looking at this, nothing wrong with this. He confirmed it wasn't a carryback period. He said, I'm approving it. You're getting your refund. Thank you very much. 13 minutes.
That's it, huh?
So on that guy, I said, listen, let me talk to your manager. Tell him what a great job you did. So sometimes it's positive, and they have this thing called an attaboy award.
Okay.
That they give to their employees who really do the right thing. And some of them do. I mean, you're going to find, like with anything else, 1 out of 3 people that you're going to be talking to are terrible. We hang up on them. Yeah. 1 out of 3 people are going to get the job done. They're not so nice, but you're going to get the job done. And 1 out of 3 are really terrific people. And it's just like every aspect in life. So
it sounds like it. That's a good tactic, though. When you want to get that manager's name and number, you can ask for it and say, "Well, I want to give you a compliment. That's why. I just want to, just tell them what a great job you're doing."
Well, they'll know that's not true if it's not true because they'll know the tenor of the conversation.
Gotcha. 1:49 on New Jersey Today on the New Talk Radio WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey. We'll come back. We'll wrap up our very special hour with E. Martin Davidoff, who was here with us. Last chance for you to get your calls in for questions and comments for him. 732-545-WCTC or 1-888-545-WCTC. Based right here in New Jersey. Real help, real information, and just a real solution to some problems that you may be having. So give us a call, 732-545-WCTC. We'll come back and wrap up hour number 1 of New Jersey Today. We'll do that next. 1:54 on New Jersey Today on the New Talk Radio WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey. Just a couple minutes to go in this first hour. Boy, we learned a lot. It was informative. It was entertaining. And we're going to make this hour available for you to check out again on demand coming up this afternoon at WCTCAM.com. Just check out my podcast page and make sure you download it and listen to it because, boy, there was a lot of information this hour.
And you're going to see our picture there, right?
Yeah.
For the new Bert and Marty show.
Yeah, people say we sound taller on the air. So, yeah. But again, E. Martin Davidoff, great to have you here, and we'll definitely have you back in the near future. Again, to reach out to him at lienbusters.com, or you can call the 732-274-1600. Don't wait another day. Peace of mind is just a phone call or a click away online. You could really put some demons to bed, as they say, just by working with Marty and his staff, who are just amazing people. But it all starts with you, so don't be afraid to make that first call. We're going to wrap up in just a second, but we have a call from Marty. We're going to say hello to Dale, who is calling from New Brunswick, who wants to talk to Marty. Hey, Dale, you're on New Jersey Today. How you doing?
Hi, how you doing? I just want to share an interesting story with you. It won't be long. I had taxes that I owed, and we paid them. Me and my wife paid it. $3,000 in an installment plan, and got another bill saying that after we paid our installment plan, we owed a bill of $2,000, apparently because of identity theft. And somebody filed taxes somehow, somewhere, and they got a refund, and we were charged with that refund, and that we talked to the IRS worker, and she just could not explain to me why I owed another $2,000 until I filed this year and found out it was identity theft. So they did tell me, and I just want to confirm this: am I responsible for the identity theft money that they got?
Actually, no, you're not. And if you go to the IRS website, www.irs.gov, they have an identity theft unit. There are about 500,000 people who have had their identities stolen and people getting refunds on your identities. So they have a big program on that, and if they have a whole department on that, you should definitely contact them. They're going to instruct you to file a police report. And
I did all that. I did all that this year, and I sent them all my documents. And what's interesting, which prompted me to call, the IRS has the people. They know who they are. They have an address and everything, but they won't share that with me. They won't tell me, Dale, these are the people who are doing this to you.
Well, they can't. But one of the things, if they're still chasing you for the money, go to the taxpayer advocate right here in Central Jersey. It's Marcy Harrison. And if you call my office, we'll give you the taxpayer advocate's phone number. My number is 732-274-1600, and just say, could you give me the phone number of the taxpayer advocate? Ask for Joanne or Amy, and they'll get you their number.
I was so excited when I heard you on the phone because I could not believe that this happened to me, and no one else. I mean, they say they filed the identity theft income tax early so they can get it through.
Well, that's exactly what happens. The IRS has hundreds of thousands. They file it before the IRS gets the matching information on the W-2. They make sure the refund claim is under $2,000. This is something that's been going on, and literally hundreds of thousands of cases. It's a huge problem. The IRS refunds are being delayed because they're suspicious of activity. That IRS is really on top of this and moving along. It's great question.
Well, I'm going to contact your office. I have other questions, but I won't keep you on. It's too extensive to answer, to bring up on the phone.
Terrific.
Gotcha, Dale. Thanks for your call, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for calling New Jersey Today. Pretty common thing, then, that this poor guy's going through. Identity theft where people get returns on someone else's name. Is that what happened here?
That's what happens. And then
goodness.
You'll see on the new tax forms there's a special number to be used in identity theft. They now give you a special number in addition to your Social Security number. Once you're a victim of identity theft, you then have to use that number in addition to make sure it's legitimate. It is a very big problem. We're finding 3% of our clients. So what people need to do is they got to get credits, check their credit reports regularly. Be very careful with your Social Security number. Minimize getting it out. Don't email it. A lot of things, and we're certainly aware of this. And the IRS is. Apparently, it's one of the largest problems they have.
Boy, it used to just be, pain in the neck Russian teenagers who would steal your credit card and download $100 worth of music that you were stuck with. Now we're talking about identity theft and getting money back from the IRS, which is, man, oh man, what a problem.
It's another way people will put it on W-4s and they'll get W-2 wages. They'll have no withholding, and then you'll get a matching notice saying that you earned this income and you never did it. So that's another thing that'll happen.
Oh man. Well, we really covered a lot in this hour, Marty. We'll definitely have you back in the near future. We want to talk about a bunch of other things with regards to the IRS and taxes and the issues that go with that. But thanks so much for being here, and we'll definitely have you back in the near future, okay?
Great to be here. Thank you very much.
Great information. Thank you. All right, hour number 2 of New Jersey Today is coming up. Our Laughternoon segment with John Peasy and Laura Gibbons, who will both be here. Also, your chance to win the Rascals tickets. We got that coming up in hour number 2, and lots more. And, of course, so make sure you stay right there in New Jersey Today. We've got news, we've got traffic, we've got weather, and we've got another hour to go here on a Thursday on the New Talk Radio WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey.